Hey guys, what's going on? Abby here. Welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today we are talking about armor stats. Now I know I have a ton of videos on the channel all about armor stats, what to keep, what to get rid of, a lot of dim guides. However, I was put on to this new website, a new Destiny 2 companion type website, and I've been using it ever since. It is amazing in order to get the stats that you want on the builds that you're looking for. So let's dive right into it. We are going to be taking a look at D2 Armor Picker by Mihago. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this is the site that we're going to take a look at. It is fairly new, I believe, and it's amazing for setting up your stats. I'm going to walk you through an example build so you can see exactly how it works and point out some awesome features of this website. So first thing you want to do is go to the link that I'm going to provide down in the description below. Once you get there, it's going to look like this. I would recommend testing the second version of the D2 Armor Picker here. Clicking on that button is going to take you to a newer version. And then from there, you can select which class you want to build for. So Titan Hunter or Warlock. Today, we're going to be doing our Warlock. Make sure if it's your first time visiting this website that you do log in with your Bungie account and all that good stuff. So we chose Warlock, and you can see it's already starting to populate some stat options for us. You can start playing around with the stats here in this box. You can also select your triple tier 10 builds right here. Now it's going to be grayed out if you cannot do a triple 10, but for instance on my Warlock I can, and if I use this drop down I can either do a discipline triple stat, mobility, recovery, discipline, or mobility, recovery, intellect. So let's go ahead and pick the mobility, recovery, discipline. It's going to highlight those for us, and then it's going to filter this right side results to the ones that I could choose. Now look at this. I've got a stag loadout here with mobility, recovery, and discipline, all hundreds, which is amazing. Recovery governs the class ability cooldown for Warlock, so it's great to have 90 or 100 recovery. The results are also going to show you how many mods it wants you to equip and of which type. And you can affect that by changing this available mod slot limitation. So if you can only use 4 mod slots because your class item is taken up using particle deconstruction and, focusing lens or another artifact mod, you can actually change how many mod slots you're willing to use for stats. The other hack that I like to do is you could lower it down to 4 and then use 2 plus 5 stats in order to achieve the same result. So you're essentially using 5 mod slots, but for the sake of this app, you're going to choose 4. But let's go back over to the results. We've got 100 mobility, 100 recovery, and 100 discipline. And we can see over here we're using 2 mobility mods and 3 recovery mods. And then if we choose this drop down here, it's going to show us the full details of this build. So we can see our armor pieces here, which ones it chose, what the stat breakdowns are, and which mods we're going to be using. Here's our mobility mods, here's our recovery mods, and it even tells you kind of what you need to do once you've decided you like this build and you want to use this. However, they made it super easy if you use dim. I haven't used this move items to your inventory beta yet, and it looks like you have to make sure you're not full. So it might be better just to copy the dim query to clipboard. This is really amazing. So it's going to copy that dim query. We're going to head over to dim, and in the search bar of dim, sorry, I have a ton of searches in here. We're going to paste that query, and it's going to look up all the armor that was in that list. So over here on D2 Picker, we have the stag, we have iron truage gloves, we have the robes, the fellowship boots, etc. Over on dim, it's going to highlight those 4 pieces. Obviously class item doesn't matter, so it's going to highlight those 4 pieces, and you can see these right here. So it's a really amazing way to see which stats you have that are really good. Even if you don't masterwork everything and put it all together as a build, it's a great way to kind of highlight really good armor pieces that you have. So that's the base of what this website can do. But if you have a specific exotic in mind, which usually you do when you're coming up with a build or trying to do harder content and you want to see what kind of armor you've got out there, you're going to be using a specific exotic piece. So you're going to scroll down to exotic, and you're going to click on the exotic you want to use. Now for us, we're going to use Dawn Chorus because I want to come up with a GM build for the Nightfall GM this week. So we're going to be using Dawn Chorus and going bottom tree Dawn Blade because it's kind of busted right now. And we want that extra burn because the enemies are a lot more tanky. So for this build, we want to use our mod slot limitation down to 4 because I'm using particle deconstruction. I'm probably going to use Vex Mythoclast, and I'm probably going to be the support player of the group, always applying that particle deconstruction to every single boss. And with that, I'm probably also going to be using Focusing Lens or Thermoclastic Strike or something else on my class item. So I'm not going to have space for a mod, and if I do, it's going to only be for a +1. So that's why I'm doing that. And then we go up here, we know we want 100 recovery, we know we want 100 discipline. That's ideal. Now we also want to look at our resilience for GMs. We don't want to be super duper squishy, but let's take a look at these builds. I really like this one right here. This 40 resilience, 100 recovery, 100 discipline, 50 intellect. Look how flat those stats are, except for our mobility, which we could always opt for 10 less in discipline and then pop a 5 on our mobility and get 50 mobility, and we'd have really nice and flat stats. So this is what we're going to go for. It's also a 36 tier, which is higher than the other ones. So all we have to do is copy that dim query to the clipboard. We're going to put this new query in here, and this is going to be our stats. So if you want to equip these items, you can just drag and equip them, and they'll equip on your Warlock, or if there's something like the Vault, you can drag and drop, or you can just select equip here from dim. Makes it super easy. Now you're gonna have to move around some stats, but we know from our D2 armor picker that this build is being recommended with 1 recovery and 3 discipline mods. All right, so I went in and changed all of my stat mods. So we've got a +3 discipline, +1 discipline, which matches our +1 on our class item. So that's a second discipline mod, basically. We've got a recovery, and then we've got a 3rd discipline mod. So that's what the website recommended. And you can see my stat distribution is at 98, 98, and then 49 and 38 here. So all we have to do is masterwork these legs right here, and then we're gonna match the stat distribution from the website perfectly, which is great. I already have the rest of my build masterwork, so all I have to do is invest 1 ascendant shard into these boots, which, looking at them here, I probably need to change to void before I masterwork them because I'm going to want to use protective light. Now, if you are newer to the game or you don't have a lot of upgrade materials and you said, well, I don't really want to be masterworking everything, that's totally fine too. Go back to D2 armor picker, scroll on down to the desired mod and skills selection. We're actually going to go further down to advanced settings. We'll talk about the mods in a second, but you can toggle on and off, assume all legendary items are masterwork, assume all exotic items are masterwork, and assume that class items are masterwork. Now, I always recommend to new players that you masterwork your class item first because it's not going to change much, and the only thing you have to worry about is the energy. So for me, I like to masterwork a class item in each different energy, that way I can swap it around. But for newer players, all you have to do is put 1 shard into it, you masterwork it, you get 12 extra stats, and you don't have to worry about the stat distribution at all because class items don't have stats. If you don't have a lot of materials, you can also uncheck all of these and say only use already masterworked items, or just keep everything unchecked and it'll use what is the best. If you are new to the game, you don't have a lot of upgrade materials, whatever the reason, you don't want to masterwork anything else, you can uncheck all of this and it's just going to look at what you have on your stats now. It's not going to assume masterwork on anything. If you have a lot of masterworked armor that you don't want to remasterwork by basically changing the energy, you can also uncheck this elemental armor affinity as well. So let's scroll back up, and as we do that on our Warlock, on our Dawn Chorus, let's see if we can get our double recovery and discipline again. We can. And you can see with this build, we're wasting a little bit more stats, but we're not having to put an ascendant shard into anything to masterwork it. It's giving us all of our masterwork items already, which is great. So you could also use this, copy that to clipboard, go over to dim, pop it into dim, and it's basically just swapping out our legs. So if I really wanted to, I could just use these legs instead of these legs and not have to waste a shard. So let's go ahead and clear that build again and go down here to the desired mod and skill selections. Now, if you have a ton of mods, specifically Powerful Friends, Radiant Light, stuff that's going to boost or lower your stats, this is a great section to toggle those on or off. If you're willing to use powerful friends, toggle it on because that's going to help you get those triple stats. And in some cases is really the only way you can get those triple stats unless you have a lot of high stat armor. Same with Radiant Light. Those are two 20-point stat boosts for mobility and strength. You can also put Protective Light on here as well if you care about your strength stat and you want to see what it looks like with the -10 of Protective Light. You can pop that in there. Most of the time I don't really care about strength that much, so I don't bother toggling this on. It doesn't really matter to me either way. And then the other thing that is huge that this website does that Dim does not currently have, hopefully they will in the future, but this site has your Stasis fragments. So on my Hunter, this is so important. On my Hunter, I'm using a couple of these Stasis fragments that are taking my stats down. I think I use Whisper of Bonds and Conductor Chain. I forget the names of these, but say you want to use a couple of these, well, you need to toggle them on so that now it shows the correct stats and it doesn't give you an incorrect view of what your stats are going to look like. All right, guys, that's it for the D2 armor picker. I hope this site finds you well. I have been using it almost daily to figure out cool builds with different exotics, and it's been amazing. It has been a breath of fresh air to have. Of course, I always loved Dim, and I love that they've integrated with Dim, giving us the script to highlight those armor pieces. But this site is going to make it so easy for you guys to find really great armor builds. Give it a try. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I hope this guide helped you out, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.